If you don't want to acknowledge that politics is in your workplace, unfortunately, you're probably going to end up being a loser. And I don't mean that with a sort of an L sign on your forehead, but it means that you're going to be left behind. You're going to be left out.
The question is from Thinking Focus.
Hi, I'm Rob from Thinking Focus.
Hi, I'm Paul from Thinking Focus.
And the question is, who wins at work as we find new ways of working?
That's a really interesting question because it's tempting to think that the winners will be the people who just get on with stuff.
Yeah.
The people who do the right things, the people who just pick up and start working really hard. Particularly, I mean, at the moment, we're kind of, I was about to say at the end of the pandemic. We're not at the end of the pandemic. We're kind of smack bang in the middle of it. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It kind of, was it the beginning of the end or whatever it was Churchill said?
Yeah.
The end of the beginning.
I think we're at that stage where people are going, regardless of what stage we're at, we're ready to actually either find a new way of working or get started again or, come back to some sort of level of normality. It might be going on in the background, but we've got to get on with life and work in general.
And I think that's where actually obviously the people who roll their sleeves up and do the work are going to do well. Mm-hmm. But the winners could actually be the political people, the people who come in and look at this through a slightly different lens of going, well, what's the opportunity for me right now?
So can we just clarify on that, Paul? Do we mean political people or political work politics?
Work politics, definitely work politics. I don't mean politics with a... I never get this right. It's politics with a big P when you're who you vote for, and politics with a small p is who you screw over at work, isn't it? That's right.
Okay, well, I don't know which one it is, but, there's the recognition that does politics happen in your workplace? Yes, it does. Do you recognise it? Well, I'm not sure if I do.
And I think that's a really, interesting thing you said there, because you said, does politics happen in your workplace? I don't know if you've been asked this before. I've been asked this, or it's not so much asked, told, but I don't want to do the politics. I don't like the politics.
Yeah.
And you kind of go, really? Everything's political.
Yes.
Politics is about having a point of view that moves us forward in a particular direction. Name me something where that isn't relevant. I mean, that's what humans do. That's what
and let's go back to the question. Who wins at work as we find new ways of working? If you don't want to acknowledge that politics is in your workplace, unfortunately, you're probably going to end up being a loser. And I don't mean that with a sort of an L sign on your forehead, but it means that you're going to be left behind. You're going to be left out. You're not going to grasp opportunities, and obviously the other extreme is also true. Some people are very, very political in their workplace behavior.
Yeah, now we do this when we're working with people. I love that model, which is from a couple called Baddeley and James, which was an academic paper, I think, which was aimed at local government in the UK originally.
Right.
But the idea of looking at political behaviour on two different criteria. So one was the kind of level of integrity.
Mm-hmm.
At one end of the spectrum, you've got somebody who's deeply integral and is only looking to do the right thing.
Okay.
And at the other end of the spectrum, you've got somebody who is a game player, for want of a better word. They're doing whatever suits them. So it's a little bit of are we doing the right thing for us, or are we doing the right thing for me? And then the other spectrum was their level of political awareness, from highly political aware and being a bit of a player, to being unaware, and then obviously that then creates four boxes, as all these 2x2 models do.
Right.
But I love the four boxes. So
okay.
So so you were talking about the people who choose to opt out against this model from Baddeley and James were people who would be considered to be high in integrity. They're trying to do the right thing, but they're actually politically unaware. So they're choosing to opt out, but actually they're choosing to kind of not partake, really, because it's happening anyway.
Okay.
And they're called sheep, which I think is a really nice, if slightly mean, definition of them, because they get...
Yeah, this is the model where it maps onto animal behavior. Well, they use animals to signify the four boxes.
Yeah, and you can, to a certain extent, you can take that behavior, because you think about sheep behavior in the workplace. You think about it right now. There will be a number of people who come in and go, do you know what? We just need to get on with it. What do you need me to do? Whatever it is, they're going to get herded around by other people. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing if that's what you're happy with.
Okay.
So I think to a certain extent, if you do want out of the politics, then accept that you're out of the politics. Accept that decisions are going to be made around you that you're not going to influence.
I guess the working assumption there, Paul, is that you're being herded in the right direction too.
Yeah, that's a big assumption, though, isn't it?
Yes.
When you put it like that, that's a huge assumption. But yes, that's the working assumption that you by opting out of the politics, you're accepting the answers you're being given.
Yes.
And I guess if you're in an organisation right now with some strong leaders and you really buy into what they're doing, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with going, look, I buy it, I get it, I'm going to follow you. It's standard follower behaviour. Let's just go for it. I'll be a sheep.
Right.
So
okay.
They start there, sheep, high integrity, low political awareness. Above that, so high integrity but high political awareness, they describe as the owl. And these are the guys I think are really interesting. I mean, I do wonder if they I don't know this for a fact, but I've often wondered whether they went owl or unicorn or owl, because these guys are really hard to find.
Right.
So this is somebody who is putting all their power and all their effort into doing the right thing for everybody. And that's really tough at difficult times, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. Now, that's what's interesting there is that I make a working assumption on that actually owl was chosen because of the adage of wise old owl.
Yeah, I think it probably was.
Is that absolutely necessary true or not quite?
I don't know why they picked it, but I think they, when you read the paper, that kind of wise old owl comes out, that this person is seeing a bigger picture and doing the right thing and playing a longer game than necessarily than some of the others.
Okay.
The on the other side, you've got the political behaviours from people who are very self-interested, so that's kind of low in integrity or game playing, and these guys are known as foxes. And I quite like that analogy. Mm-hmm. This idea that these people are going to do whatever it takes to get what they need,
right?
To work the system in their favour.
Okay, a bit canny.
A bit canny. Sly fox is the one I always think of when I look at that. Mm-hmm. And again, I don't want to say this is necessarily negative to be a fox, but I'll sort of come back to it in a second because there's another sort of theory that I always think applies here. But foxes can be quite useful. In the next few months, as we're trying to establish these new ways of working, having some people who kind of get that there's something in it for them and therefore are prepared to put the effort and maybe roll their sleeves up and do some of the dirty work might not be necessarily the worst thing in the world.
Okay.
The ones I think I'm always worried about are the game playing politically unaware. So they're not really aware of the politics, but they are doing the game playing in self-interest. And the model called them donkeys. and I love that because again, I when you're explaining this to somebody in a corporate environment and you get to this sort of final box of the donkey, everybody who's ever worked in a large company has at some point worked with a donkey.
So very easy to recognise.
Well, yeah, and I think again, if we play that animal thing out, what happens if you mess around with a donkey? You're going to get kicked.
You get kicked. You get bitten. Yeah. Trampled on a bit.
Yeah. And so I think it sort of plays out. So I think there's a temptation to think when you look at that right now, that in the really short term, the donkeys and the foxes, the people who are more self-interested in essence, may do better as we find new ways of working and the change starts to embed, because they're going to get what they want out of this situation.
Right.
The caveat I put on it is that it's not as simple as that. And the reason I think it's as simple as that is a thing that's known as pro-social behaviours.
Oh, yeah. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah. So the idea here is to go that as humans, we kind of in groups need to support each other. And that's something that's evolutionarily built into us.
Okay.
Yeah. So over a long period of time, we've got used to saying, actually, I expect you to help me and you should expect me to help you. Mm-hmm. So American organizational psychologist called Adam Grant, did a great book called Givers and Takers.
Yeah.
And so you've got at one end people who help, and the other end people who take the help. So givers I support, and takers I take from the group.
Okay.
And what's really interesting in Adam Grant's research is that most of us aren't in either of those groups. Most of us are in the middle, in this typically pro-social world of saying, do you know what? I'm going to help you, Rob, because I know at some point you're going to help me.
Okay, so reciprocal behaviour.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm doing it on the basis that we're all set up to work that way. So we kind of support and help each other.
Okay.
So think about for a second, you ever work with somebody who doesn't follow those rules? Somebody who takes the help, demands from other people, but doesn't contribute to the group or to the team?
Yep, know a few of those, come across some of those in the past. Right. After a while, my threshold of tolerance diminishes. Really like that.
Yes. So we naturally want to punish these people.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, if you see somebody who at the moment who is just take, me, I think actually the reaction of the people around them is to go, no, I'm not having that. I'm gonna punish that individual.
Yeah, you either punish them or you avoid them, and there is the argument that by avoiding them you are punishing them because you are taking yourself out of the equation. But yeah,
and punish could be really simple. It could be just, do you know what? I here's some key information. I know they need it. I'm going to choose not to tell them.
Right.
I'm going to choose to stay quiet in a meeting, or I'm not going to invite them into this project because they nick all the ideas and claim them as their own.
Yeah.
So I think, at one end of the spectrum, if you're all take, you're not going to do very well in the next bit, even though the sort of political behaviour suggests that you might get in there and do something. Eventually, you're going to build up enemies.
The Question Is, from Thinking Focus, a podcast about how our thinking impacts our results and what we can do about it.
But I mean, because you also mentioned, from Grant's research, the other characteristic, the giver. Yeah. And the giver, there's a real consequence of being a giver, though, isn't there? Because that sounds to me like I could keep on receiving and take advantage.
And that's true to a certain extent. What's one of my most fascinating bits of the research is to go, so you've got takers at one end. Mm-hmm. And I can't remember the exact numbers, but it's about 20-25%. You've got givers at the other end, which is about the same percentage. I think one is slightly bigger than the other. Mm-hmm. With the majority, 60-70% being matchers, people who are basically, in essence, I always like to think, keeping score, because they're going, you owe me a favour, oh, I owe you a favour, which is true though. When somebody helps you, you kind of feel like you owe them a favour for a while, and
sure,
you're ready to, you're ready for them to come and cash in.
Yeah.
With the givers, what Grant discovered, which I thought was really useful and really telling for right now, is that the people who did the worst were givers, and the people who did the best in these situations were givers.
Wow.
So it's the level of disagreeableness. So again, looking at personality types, some of us are highly agreeable, i.e. we're prone to want to make the group work and give back to the group. Mm-hmm. And some of us are disagreeable, i.e. we're prone not to want the group to work, and we're a little bit more, I guess, self-interested in this.
Yeah, okay.
So where you got a giver that's agreeable, what was happening in that research was that those people were kind of being abused and therefore being worn out because everybody around them was using them as a resource, but they weren't getting enough support and help back. So they just give, and then bleh.
Okay.
So disagreeable givers, though, were only prepared to give when they saw it as being useful to the group.
To the group or to themselves?
Well, because they tend to be pro-social, they're givers. It's probably more likely to the group.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
But it could be themselves. It's an interesting question you ask. I'm not actually that sure. I know one of the examples he gives is a consultant in an organisation who would basically coach and support any junior member of staff.
Mm-hmm.
if they were serious about it. So actually, if and again, you and I coach a lot of people. How many people do you coach where, hand on heart, in the coaching session, you kind of go, they're not going to do any of this.
Yeah, they're not going to take it forward.
They're not. Yeah, that action we've just talked about is difficult and it's hard and it's unpleasant. They're not going to go and do it.
So the trade-off there is you're basically making a decision about, I'm wasting my time here. Whether or not you're wasting their time or they're wasting their own time. You're sort of going, hang on, all of the stuff that I'm putting in here, which it should be of good value, is not being reciprocated. So I'm not interested anymore.
Yeah, and it's not that I want anything back from you personally. I don't want you to owe me a favour.
No,
but I do want you to go and act on this. If I'm putting time and effort in to help you get somewhere, you blooming well be prepared to go and get there.
Well, it surely talks to a basic motivation of wanting to add value.
Yes, I think so.
I'm sort of willing to do this with you. As you said before, don't necessarily personally want to get something back. But if what I'm giving to you, you're not using or making use of, then I'm not adding value to you. So I'm no longer interested in doing that with you.
Yeah, I mean, I always saw it as maybe even just going, don't waste my time.
Yeah.
I will help you as much as I want, but do not waste my time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that to me then leads to mindset.
Yes.
So actually you need a level of growth mindset to go, actually, we can achieve this, we can do these things, we can go out and create whatever opportunities we need for each other and help each other. There has to be a belief that's possible.
Well, absolutely. And I mean, the environment and the situation, because of a new way of working, or the situation, is one that actually is going to be creating opportunities. If we don't have the right mindset, we might not even recognize those opportunities exist.
Yeah. And therefore we kind of reject both the support and the help and the political behaviours of going and getting it, because we just don't believe anything is possible. Which at which end you might as well become a sheep and just attach yourself in a nice, positive way to somebody who's going somewhere interesting.
Right. Yeah, which is what sheep are prone to do.
Yeah, it is. And so I think that's where it gets very interesting to sort of go all the way back around to the original question and go, who's going to win as we find new ways of working?
Yeah.
Actually, it's that group of people who are going to engage actively in this.
Yes.
In a way that, gets involved and therefore needs to be politically embedded into this process, ideally for the benefit of it all.
Yes.
But even if you're doing it for you, do it on the basis of, trading favors. So actually, this isn't all about you, it's all about us. And to get what you want, other people need to get what they want too.
Well, and I think there's also an insurance policy built into that as well, because there is the temptation to think, oh, you're self-serving. But actually, that's not the case, because if you didn't go and do something for yourself, and a lot of other people just were sheep, then you would be left behind. You would not get on. You wouldn't be able to actually recognize an opportunity and do something with that opportunity.
Yeah.
And why should you, if you like, suffer? I use that word advisedly, just because other people are not seeing an opportunity for what it is or creating opportunity.
No, I agree. I think it's that piece of going, somebody's got to step up and do something here, and create these new ways of working, create the change and embed that change. And the people I think will win as this change happens, and not the people who get it for themselves, but the people who make it happen for all of us.
Yes.
Because they will be the ones that end up with the followers, and they will be the ones that end up with the influence and the leadership positions, whether that's formal or informal, coming out the other side of this.
Yes.
Next time on The Question Is.
The role of leadership has been one of being very firm, being very decisive. What's actually needed now? And there's two issues really that it would be useful, I think, to explore, Paul. And one is around identity as opposed to the other being stability. If leaders need to create a shared identity for the group, their team, what does that look like?
Thinking Focus works with teams and business units in organizations around the world, helping them achieve breakthroughs by enabling them to think differently. To find out more about our work and how we could help your organisation, go to www.thinkingfocus.com.